The first threat arrived during third period history. It was written in blue crayon on the back of a missing homework sheet. Stop asking about Daniel Reyes. Elena Marquez read the sentence twice, while 22 eighth graders argued over whether Alexander Hamilton had been brave or reckless. A paper airplane sailed past her shoulder. Someone tapped a pencil against a desk. Outside the classroom windows, rain dragged silver lines down the glass. Elena folded the note and slipped it into the pocket of her navy dress. "History is not improved by shouting," she said. The room settled, mostly. At the back, 13-year-old Mateo Reyes stared at his blank notebook. His hood covered half his face, though school policy forbade it. Elena had corrected him twice already that morning. On any other day, she would have tried a third time. Today, she watched the boy's hands. His fingers were shaking. After the bell, Mateo remained in his seat, while the others crowded into the hallway. Elena closed the door and leaned against the edge of her desk. "You want to tell me why someone sent me that?" Mateo's head lifted. For 1 second, fear stripped away the stubbornness he wore like armor. "I don't know what you mean." Elena placed the folded note between them. He went pale. "That isn't mine." "I didn't say it was." His chair scraped back. "You need to forget my brother. Daniel disappeared 6 months ago. You stopped turning in assignments 3 weeks later. Last Friday, you came to school with blood on your sleeve. It was paint." "It wasn't paint." Mateo looked toward the narrow glass panel in the door. A man in a charcoal suit stood at the far end of the corridor, speaking quietly with the principal. The boy's breathing changed. Elena noticed. "So you do know him," she said. Mateo grabbed his backpack. "You shouldn't stay late today." Before she could stop him, he slipped through the door. The man at the end of the hallway turned. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and motionless in a way that made everyone around him appear restless. His suit fit too well for a parent meeting. A dark overcoat hung from one hand. There was no visible weapon, no raised voice, no obvious threat. Yet Principal Hargrove kept rubbing his palms against his trousers. The stranger's gaze traveled past him and settled on Elena. He did not smile. Neither did she. A moment later, Hargrove hurried toward her. "Ms. Marquez, this is Mr. Valenti." The name carried weight. Elena had heard it whispered by shop owners, police officers, and parents who lowered their voices before finishing a sentence. Luca Valenti owned shipping companies, restaurants, half a block of luxury apartments, and, according to people who preferred living, far more than that. He extended his hand. Elena looked at it, then at him. "Why are you in my school?" A faint shift touched Hargrove's face. Luca lowered his hand without offense, straight to the point. "My students are waiting for lunch. I don't have time for anything else. You have time for Mateo Reyes. He's my student. He's also under my protection." Elena felt the note against her hip. "That sounds reassuring," she said. "It isn't." Hargrove cleared his throat. "Mr. Valenti has made a generous donation to our after-school program." "And now he wants a receipt?" Luca's eyes sharpened, not with anger, but interest. "I want to know what Mateo told you." "Ask him." "I did." "Then respect his answer." Hargrove stepped between them with an anxious laugh. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation in my office." "No," Elena said. Luca studied her for another beat. His gaze dropped briefly to the pocket where she had hidden the note. Then he looked back into her eyes. "You should leave before 5. The words were quiet. Not advice. Not quite a threat. Elena crossed her arms. "Mateo told me the same thing." For the first time, Luca's control cracked. Only slightly. But she saw it. "Where is he?" he asked. "He left my classroom 30 seconds ago." Luca turned before she finished. He spoke one sentence into his phone, and 3 men appeared from different parts of the building, as though they had been waiting behind the walls. Elena followed him into the hall. Matteo was gone. His backpack lay beside the rear exit. Inside it, Elena found 2 textbooks, a bruised apple, and an expensive silver watch wrapped in a blood-stained handkerchief. Luca took one look at the watch and closed his fist around it. "Who does it belong to?" Elena asked. He ignored her. She reached for the watch. His other hand caught her wrist. The corridor went silent. His grip was firm but careful. He released her immediately. "Do not touch that again. Then answer me." One of his men approached. The camera feed was cut 4 minutes ago. Luca's face became unreadable. "Lock the building." Elena stepped in front of him. "There are children here. Then help me clear them out. You don't give orders in my school." "No," he said, "but whoever took Matteo might start killing people in it." The emergency dismissal took 14 minutes. Elena spent every one of them keeping her voice calm, while teachers moved students toward the buses. She checked bathrooms, storage rooms, and the cafeteria. She found no sign of Matteo. In the art room, however, she found a single muddy footprint beneath an open window. Beside it lay a torn piece of black fabric. She reached for it. "Don't." Luca stood in the doorway. "I'm beginning to dislike that word," Elena said. He entered and crouched beside the footprint. His movements were precise. He touched the edge of the fabric with a handkerchief, then held it to the light. Stitched into the cloth was a small gold emblem. A wolf with a crown. Elena saw recognition in his face. "You know it." "No." That was a lie. His eyes lifted slowly. Most people probably retreated when he looked at them that way. Elena did not. "My student is missing," she said. "You came here asking what he told me. Someone warned me to stop asking about his brother. Now you're pretending you don't recognize the symbol left by whoever climbed through that window. You think honesty will keep you safe. I think silence is what made Matteo unsafe." For a moment, rain filled the room with soft, relentless tapping. Then Luca stood. "Daniel Reyes worked for me." Elena's throat tightened. "As what?" "A driver. Matteo said he was a mechanic." That was the public version. "And the private one?" Luca folded the fabric into his handkerchief. Daniel listened. He remembered. Occasionally, he carried messages that could not be written down. "Did you kill him?" The question hung between them. One of Luca's men shifted near the door. Luca did not. "No." You answered quickly. "I've had 6 months to consider the accusation." Elena searched his face for guilt. She found fatigue instead, buried deep beneath discipline. "What happened to him?" "He stole something." "The watch?" "No." "Then what?" Luca stepped closer. "Something men have destroyed cities to possess." "That sounds dramatic." "It was a ledger." Elena almost laughed, but his expression stopped her. "A financial ledger?" "Names, payments, judges, police officers, councilmen, men who pretend they have never met me." "And Daniel took it?" "He vanished the night it disappeared." A distant crash echoed through the empty wing. Luca moved before Elena understood the sound. He pulled her behind the thick brick wall beside the doorway as glass exploded across the art room. A bullet struck the cabinet where she had been standing. His body shielded hers. His hand covered the back of her head, pressing her against his chest as a second shot tore through the window. Elena heard his heart. Steady. Too steady. His men rushed into the corridor. Orders snapped through the building. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Luca released her only after the silence returned. "Are you hurt?" She looked at the blood spreading near his shoulder. "You are. It's glass." That is still blood. I've had worse. That doesn't make it better. She pulled a clean cloth from the art supply cabinet and pressed it against the cut. He watched her hands, then her face, as though kindness confused him more than gunfire. The shooter wasn't aiming at you, he said. Elena paused. The first bullet hit exactly where I was standing. Yes, she understood. They were aiming at me. Luca took the cloth from her and examined the broken window. Across the street, an abandoned apartment building faced the school. One of its upper windows stood open. They knew you would find the fabric, he said. So it was planted. Yes. Why? To make you ask questions. I was already doing that. No. His gaze returned to her pocket. They wanted you to ask me. Elena removed the blue note. Luca unfolded it. His jaw tightened. You've seen this handwriting. I've seen the message. Where? He did not answer. His phone rang. The man on the other end spoke for less than 5 seconds. Luca's face lost what little warmth it had possessed. What happened? Elena asked. He lowered the phone. They found Matteo. Relief hit her first. Where? In one of my cars. Is he hurt? He's alive. The words should have comforted her. They did not. Luca turned the blue note over. On the back of the paper, beneath the crayon threat, a faint line of writing had appeared where rainwater touched the page. Elena leaned closer. The hidden message was only 4 words. Ask the teacher about Sophia. Luca stared at her. Who is Sophia? Elena stepped back. She had not heard that name in 20 years. Not since the night her mother packed 2 suitcases, changed their last name, and made Elena promise never to ask why. A siren wailed somewhere beyond the shattered window. Luca's voice dropped. Elena. She looked at the dangerous man standing between her and the rain. Sophia, she said, was my mother's real name. Luca did not ask Elena to explain herself in the shattered art room. He took her phone, removed the battery, and placed both pieces in separate evidence bags. That belongs to me, she said. Right now, it belongs to whoever is tracking it. You could have said that before dismantling it. You would have argued. I'm arguing now. Yes, but we're moving. He guided her through the rear corridor as his men sealed the school behind them. The rain had thickened, turning the parking lot into a sheet of black glass. A line of armored vehicles waited beside the buses, engines running. Elena stopped beneath the awning. I'm not getting into your car. Luca opened the rear door. Matteo is inside. She entered without another word. The boy sat curled in the corner, wrapped in a grey blanket. His wet hair clung to his forehead. A bruise darkened one cheek, but his eyes were open. Elena. She crossed the car and knelt in front of him. Are you hurt? He shook his head too quickly. She checked his wrists. Red marks circled both of them. Who tied you up? I don't know. What did they look like? I couldn't see. Luca climbed in and shut the door. The locks engaged. The vehicle pulled away before he sat down. Matteo stared at him. You said you'd keep me safe. Luca absorbed the accusation without defending himself. I failed. The boy's face tightened. He looked toward the rain-streaked window. Elena had expected denial, perhaps blame. Men with Luca's kind of power rarely admitted weakness. They renamed it, reframed it, buried it beneath someone else's mistake. Luca simply sat there with the failure between them. What happened? Elena asked Matteo. I left through the back because I saw one of his men. Which man? Luca asked. Matteo's eyes flicked toward him. The one with the scar. Luca's expression did not change, but the driver's hands tightened on the wheel. None of my men assigned to the school has a scar, Luca said. I saw him talking to Daniel once. When? Before my brother disappeared. Luca leaned forward. Where? At the garage. Matteo gripped the blanket beneath his chin. Daniel told me to go upstairs. I listened from the landing. The man said something about a crown and a debt. The gold wolf. Elena glanced at Luca. He had gone very still. What debt? She asked. I don't know. Daniel started yelling in Spanish. He said our father had already paid. Your father died when you were 5, Elena said gently. Matteo nodded. That's what my mom told me. Luca reached into his coat and removed the blood-stained silver watch found in Matteo's backpack. Did Daniel own this? The boy recoiled. No. You recognize it. Matteo looked at Elena, silently asking her to rescue him from the question. She did not. Tell the truth, she said. It's the only thing in this car that might protect you. He swallowed. It belonged to the scarred man. The driver took the next turn too sharply. Luca's gaze lifted to the rearview mirror. The driver corrected the wheel. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Luca asked, How did it get into your bag? I put it there. Elena stared at Matteo. He pulled the blanket closer. I saw the man outside school this morning. He dropped it near the fence. You picked up evidence connected to your brother's disappearance and carried it into my classroom. I thought there might be something inside. Inside a watch. Matteo reached for it. Luca pulled it back. There's a compartment, the boy said. Daniel showed me one like it. Luca examined the metal casing. Along the edge, beneath the dried blood, was a narrow seam. He pressed the winding crown. The back sprang open. A tiny memory card fell into his palm. Elena looked at the watch, then at Matteo. You knew that was there. I hoped. Luca held the card beneath the dim ceiling light. This is why they took you. No, Matteo whispered. They didn't ask about the watch. What did they ask? The boy's eyes shifted to Elena. They asked where the teacher keeps her family pictures. The vehicle became silent except for the rain. Elena felt a pressure beneath her ribs. My family pictures? Matteo nodded. They wanted one of your mother. Why? They said they needed to make sure. Make sure of what? I don't know. One of them called you Elena Sofia. Her mother's name slid beside her own, like a key entering an old lock. Elena sat back. Luca watched her carefully. Where are those photographs? At my apartment. He picked up his phone. No, she said. He continued dialing. You are not sending armed men into my home. They may already be there. That doesn't give you permission. It gives me urgency. It's still my home. Luca's thumb paused above the screen. The driver glanced at him again, clearly expecting an order. Luca lowered the phone. Then we go together. Matteo looked between them. They said something else. Elena turned back to him. They said Daniel trusted the wrong Valenti. Luca's eyes hardened. There is only one Valenti in this city. The driver's shoulders shifted. Elena saw it. So did Luca. His hand moved beneath his coat. The driver's right arm swung backward. A pistol appeared between the seats. Luca caught the man's wrist before he fired. The gunshot struck the ceiling, filling the vehicle with sound and smoke. Matteo dropped to the floor. Elena pulled him beneath her as the car swerved across 2 lanes. Luca twisted the driver's arm. Bone snapped. The gun fell. The driver struck the brakes, throwing everyone forward. A second vehicle slammed into them from behind. Elena's shoulder hit the door. Metal screamed. The armored car spun once and stopped against the curb. For a moment, nothing moved. Then Luca dragged the driver across the center console and pressed the pistol beneath his jaw. Who owns you? The man laughed through his pain. You still think the crown belongs to you. Luca's finger tightened on the trigger. Elena reached over the seat and touched his arm. Don't. His eyes turned toward her. Cold, focused, empty. He tried to kill a child, and he knows why. The driver smiled, blood between his teeth. She's smarter than you. Luca looked at him again. Who is Elena Sofia? The man's smile widened. A daughter who should have drowned with her father. Elena's grip slipped from Luca's sleeve. My father died in a construction accident. No, the driver said. Your father died on his knees. Luca struck him once with the pistol. The man collapsed against the steering wheel. Elena flinched, but she did not look away. You knew, she said. Luca shook his head. I knew someone was lying, not who. Sirens approached in the distance. His men's vehicles surrounded them. Doors opened. Armed figures moved through the rain. Luca put away the gun and reached for Matteo. The boy crawled toward Elena instead. She helped him out of the damaged car. Across the street, a restaurant window reflected the scene. Men in dark suits, police lights, twisted metal, and Elena standing in the center, with one hand around a frightened child. She barely recognized herself. Luca came around the vehicle. We have less than 2 minutes before the police arrive. You own the police. Some. And the others? Belong to someone else. He led them into a waiting SUV. Elena looked back as 2 of his men pulled the unconscious driver from the wreck. What will you do to him? Ask questions. You almost killed him. I changed my mind. No, I changed it. Luca met her eyes. Yes. The admission carried no resentment, only recognition. Inside the second vehicle, Matteo sat between them. He kept his hand wrapped around Elena's fingers until his breathing steadied. Luca gave the memory card to a woman in the front passenger seat. Isolated system, he said. No network connection. She inserted it into a black tablet. A password screen appeared. Matteo leaned forward. Try my birthday. It failed. Daniel's birthday, Elena said. Failed. Luca studied the screen. Your father's name? Matteo whispered. Raphael. The woman typed it. Failed. The screen displayed one remaining attempt before permanent deletion. No more guesses, Luca said. Elena stared at the silver watch. A crown and a debt. Her father had already paid. A daughter who should have drowned. She remembered a melody her mother used to hum while washing dishes. Elena had once asked for the name. Sophia had dropped a glass into the sink and cut her hand. Not a melody. Numbers. 6 notes repeated in pairs. Type 241968, Elena said. Luca looked at her. What is it? I don't know. The woman entered the digits. The card unlocked. Folders filled the screen. Bank transfers. Photographs. Audio recordings. Names Elena recognized from campaign posters and television interviews. At the bottom was a video file dated 3 days earlier. The image opened on Daniel Reyes. He sat in a dark room with a bruise across his jaw. He looked thinner than the photograph Matteo kept inside his notebook, but he was alive. Matteo made a broken sound. Daniel leaned toward the camera. If you're watching this, I failed to reach Sophia's daughter. Elena stopped breathing. Daniel continued. The ledger was never stolen from Luca Valenti. It was created to destroy him. Every payment, every witness, every body was arranged by the person closest to his family. Luca's face tightened. Daniel looked over his shoulder as footsteps sounded beyond the frame. The man wearing the crown is not Luca. The video trembled. A door opened behind him. Before the image cut to black, a voice spoke from the darkness. A woman's voice. Calm, familiar. Elena's mother had been dead for 12 years, but Elena knew that voice. She had heard it every night of her childhood. "Turn off the camera, Daniel." The video ended. No one inside the SUV moved. Rain struck the roof in hard, uneven bursts. Matteo leaned so close to the tablet that his breath clouded the screen. Elena stared at the frozen final frame, where Daniel's face had blurred into darkness. Her mother's voice remained clear in her mind. "Turn off the camera, Daniel." Luca reached forward and replayed the final 5 seconds. Again, the footsteps. Again, the door. Again, Sofia Marquez, dead for 12 years, speaking from somewhere beyond the frame. Matteo looked at Elena. "That was your mom?" Elena's mouth felt dry. "Yes, you're sure?" "My mother used to say my name like it had 3 syllables when she was angry." She pointed toward the speaker. "She does it just before the recording cuts." Luca replayed the audio. A faint word slipped beneath the sound of the opening door. "Elena." His eyes lifted. "Then either your mother is alive," he said, "or someone has spent years learning how to sound like her." Elena turned toward the window. Streetlights passed in watery streaks. She remembered the hospital room where Sofia had died, the oxygen tube, the pale hands, the doctor pulling the sheet upward while Elena stood at the foot of the bed, 20 years old and too angry to cry. She had signed the forms, chosen the cemetery, watched the coffin disappear into the ground. "I buried her." "Did you see her after she died?" Luca asked. "Yes." "Her face?" Elena opened her mouth. The memory shifted. The sheet had covered Sofia to the chin. Her skin had been swollen from medication. The room had smelled of disinfectant and lavender hand cream. Her mother's favorite nurse had kept Elena near the door. Only now did Elena remember how quickly the funeral home arrived. "Yes," she said, but the word lacked strength. Luca heard it. What was she sick with? Heart failure. Diagnosed by whom? Dr. Arthur Bell. The woman in the front seat turned from the tablet. Luca's eyes narrowed. "Bell worked for my father." The vehicle seemed to contract around them. Elena looked from him to the woman. "As a doctor?" "As a cleaner," Luca said. Matteo frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means he made inconvenient problems disappear." Elena's hand closed around the edge of the seat. "Dr. Bell treated my mother for 5 years. He vanished 12 years ago," Luca said. "The same week Sofia died." A red light flashed across his face as the SUV slowed at an intersection. Elena watched him in silence. "You knew her," she said. "No. Your family did. My father may have." "Your father and my mother. Daniel and the ledger. My father murdered on his knees. How many connections do you need before you stop pretending this is coincidence?" His jaw tightened. "I stopped believing in coincidence when I was 13. Before Elena could answer, the woman in front spoke. "The card contains an encrypted directory." Luca shifted his attention to the tablet. "What kind?" "Biometric lock. Facial recognition." "Whose face?" She turned the screen. A photograph filled it. Elena at 17. She stood outside a public library, wearing a graduation dress and holding a certificate. Her hair was shorter. Her smile was uncertain. Sofia stood beside her, one hand resting on Elena's shoulder. The photograph had never been published. It had been kept in a frame in their apartment. "They took this from my home," Elena said. "No." The woman enlarged the image. "This is a digital scan. Metadata says it was created 11 years ago. 1 year after Sofia's funeral." Luca looked at Elena. "The photographs Matteo's captors asked about. They weren't looking for proof of my mother. They were looking for the image that unlocks the ledger." Matteo shook his head. "Why Elena?" The tablet chimed. The directory opened. Elena's photograph had been enough. Inside were 7 video files, each labeled with a date. The earliest was 21 years old. Luca selected it. A grainy image appeared. A younger Sofia sat at a wooden table, her dark hair pinned at the base of her neck. Beside her stood a man Elena recognized from old newspaper photographs. Vittorio Valenti, Luca's father. Vittorio placed a leather folder on the table. Sofia did not touch it. "You understand the cost?" he asked. "I understand what happens if I refuse." "You misunderstand me. The danger is not refusing. The danger is surviving." Sofia's face remained composed. "My husband trusted you. Your husband discovered what trust is worth." Elena leaned toward the screen. Vittorio opened the folder. Inside was a photograph of a man kneeling on concrete. Elena's father. Blood streaked his shirt. Behind him stood 3 figures wearing black coats. One bore the crowned wolf emblem at the collar. Sofia's composure broke, only for a second. "What did you do? What was necessary?" "You promised Raphael safe passage." "I promised to consider it." Sofia rose from the table. Vittorio caught her wrist. Luca's hand curled into a fist. On screen, his father leaned close to Sofia. "Your daughter lives because I allow it." Sofia looked at his hand until he released her. Then she sat. "What do you want?" Vittorio pushed the folder toward her. "A record. Every judge, senator, officer, and banker who feeds from this city. Names, dates, payments. You want a weapon. I want insurance. And when it is finished, you disappear." Sofia stared at the photograph of her husband. "No," she said softly. "When it is finished, you do." The recording ended. Matteo whispered. She made the ledger. Elena stared at the black screen. Her mother had not been a frightened widow hiding from violent men. She had been working among them, planning against them. Luca sat back, his expression stripped of certainty. "My father created the crown," he said. "The crowned wolf? A private circle inside the Valenti organization. 5 people who handled political influence and financial control. I dissolved it after he died. You thought you did." His gaze sharpened. The woman in front opened the second file. This recording was newer. Sofia sat in the same room, older now. Dr. Bell stood behind her. Across the table was a man whose face remained outside the camera frame. Sofia placed the ledger between them. "Vittorio believes this will protect his empire," she said. "We will use it to fracture the empire from within." The unseen man tapped one finger against the table. "And Luca?" Sofia's expression changed. "He is not his father. You sound fond of him. I sound accurate. He will inherit everything. Then we make sure he inherits the blame." Elena felt Luca become still beside her. The unseen man laughed. "You want to spare the son while destroying the name? I want the truth to survive long enough to choose its target." "And your daughter?" Sofia's eyes shifted toward the camera. "Elena must never know. Because she would stop you. Because she would finish it." The recording ended. Elena stared at her own reflection in the dark screen. Luca spoke first. "Your mother framed me before I inherited the organization. She may have been trying to protect you, by creating evidence that could put me in prison for the rest of my life. She said the truth would choose its target. The truth does not choose. People do." Matteo reached for the tablet. "There are more videos." The third file opened. Daniel appeared, uninjured, sitting in the passenger seat of a parked car. The date showed 6 months earlier, the night he disappeared. He looked directly into the camera. If Luca sees this, he needs to know the betrayal began before Vittorio died. He held up a photograph. The scarred man stood beside someone at a dock. The second person was a woman with silver hair. Elena did not recognize her. Luca did. "My aunt," he said. "Your father's sister, Isabella," Daniel continued. "Isabella Valenti controls the remaining crown accounts. She ordered Rafael Marquez's death. Vittorio only approved it after the fact." Elena's stomach tightened. Daniel held up another photograph. This one showed Isabella entering a private clinic. Dr. Bell walked beside her. Between them was Sophia, alive. The timestamp was 8 years after her funeral. Matteo whispered, "She survived." Elena could not answer. Daniel glanced toward something outside the car. "I found Sophia 3 weeks ago. She said Isabella kept her alive because only she could update the ledger. Sophia escaped once. She tried to reach Elena, but someone intercepted the message." He lifted a blue envelope. Elena recognized the handwriting. Her mother's. "I don't know who in Luca's organization I can trust," Daniel said. "So I hid the original ledger where Vittorio first met Sophia. The key belongs to the teacher." The video shook. A gunshot sounded in the distance. Daniel shoved the photograph beneath his jacket. "If I fail, tell Matteo I didn't leave him." The image cut out. Matteo covered his face. Elena wrapped an arm around him. Across from them, Luca stared at the screen with the cold focus of a man rebuilding his entire understanding of the world. His phone rang. He answered. A voice spoke rapidly. Luca's expression changed. Not fear. Recognition. He ended the call. "What is it?" Elena asked. "My men reached your apartment." Her arm tightened around Matteo. "And?" It was empty. Relief lasted less than a second. Luca continued. "Someone removed every photograph except one." He turned his phone toward her. The image showed Elena's bedroom. On the pillow lay a photograph of Sophia standing beside Vittorio Valenti. Between them was a young boy, Luca. On the back, someone had written a date and one sentence. He was never Vittorio's son. Elena looked at Luca. His face had lost all color. Matteo lowered his hands. The woman in front whispered, "Then who was his father?" Luca looked at the final unopened file on the tablet. Its date was the day he was born. Elena pressed play. Sophia appeared on the screen, holding a newborn wrapped in a grey blanket. She looked exhausted, terrified. Behind her, Elena's father stood guard at the door. Sophia kissed the infant's forehead. Then she looked directly into the camera. "His name is Luca," she said. "And one day, he must learn why Rafael Marquez gave his life to save him." The newborn on the screen began to cry. Sophia shifted him against her chest and looked toward Rafael Marquez. "Do we have time?" "Not much." Rafael crossed the room and checked the narrow window. He was younger than Elena remembered him from photographs, but his eyes were the same, steady, watchful, already carrying a decision no one else understood. Behind the camera, someone spoke. "Vittorio is coming." Sophia's arms tightened around the infant. Rafael turned. "Then we do it now." The footage jumped. A second woman entered the frame wearing a hospital gown. Her blonde hair clung to her face. She looked weak, frightened, and furious. Luca leaned toward the screen. "My mother." The woman Elena had always known from newspapers as Cecilia Valenti sat beside Sophia. Between them lay 2 grey blankets. One held Luca. The other appeared empty. Cecilia looked at the child in Sophia's arms. "If Vittorio discovers this, he will raise the boy as his own," Sophia said. "That is not the danger. It is the only protection left." Cecilia shook her head. He will make him cruel. Raphael stepped closer. Then we leave him something stronger than Vittorio. He reached into his coat and placed a small brass key on the table. Sophia looked at it. The archive? The first room. Cecilia stared at Raphael. You kept records? I kept truth. A door slammed somewhere outside. All three adults froze. Sophia kissed the infant once more and handed him to Cecilia. The exchange was quiet. Too quiet for something that would shape decades. Cecilia wrapped Luca in the second blanket and stood. What do I tell Vittorio? That his son survived, Raphael said. And yours. Sophia's face folded for one breath. Then she forced it still. My son died. Elena's fingers went numb. Beside her, Luca stopped breathing. The recording continued. Cecilia carried the baby toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back. What will you call your daughter? Sophia looked toward Raphael. Elena. The screen went dark. No one inside the SUV spoke. Matteo was the first to move. He looked from Elena to Luca, trying to understand what the adults had already understood. Luca's voice came out low. Rafael Marquez was my father. Elena stared at him. The city moved beyond the tinted windows, but she no longer felt the motion. Her father, his father, the same man. She searched Luca's face for some resemblance she had missed. The shape of his brow, the line of his mouth, the way he held silence like a shield. Her childhood memories shifted around him. Raphael lifting her onto his shoulders. Raphael checking every lock twice. Raphael telling her that family was not blood alone, but blood mattered when someone wanted to erase it. You're my brother, she whispered. Luca looked at her. Pain passed across his face, sharp and unguarded. Not because the truth disgusted him, because it destroyed something neither of them had allowed themselves to name. Elena withdrew her hand from the seat between them. Every charged silence, every moment of trust, every glance that had lingered longer than necessary, all of it collapsed beneath one impossible fact. Matteo stared at the floor. The woman in front turned away, giving them what little privacy the vehicle allowed. Luca reached for the tablet. There may be another explanation. You heard her. I heard a recording made by people who built lies for a living. My mother held you. Your mother also constructed evidence to destroy me. Our father stood beside her. The word "our" struck them both. Luca looked toward the window. For the first time since Elena had met him, he seemed unable to command his own body. His shoulders remained rigid, but his hand trembled once before closing into a fist. Then the tablet emitted a sharp tone. The directory began deleting itself. The woman in front grabbed it. Remote access. You said it was isolated, Luca snapped. It is. File names vanished one by one. Someone had built a timed trigger into the card. Matteo lunged forward. Save Daniel's videos. She copied the files to an external drive, but the progress bar moved too slowly. 7 folders became 5. 5 became 3. Luca took out his phone. Turn around. We're going to the first room. Elena looked at him. You know where it is? Vittorio first met Sophia in an abandoned courthouse beneath the old municipal district. The building was demolished. The building above it was. The SUV changed direction. On the tablet, the final encrypted folder opened before disappearing. A single document flashed across the screen. A birth certificate. The woman froze it long enough to capture an image. Luca Valenti. Mother, Cecilia Valenti. Father, Vittorio Valenti. A second name had been hidden beneath the digital layer. Rafael Marquez. The proof seemed complete. Then Elena noticed the date. This was filed 3 days before you were born. Luca took the tablet. That's impossible. Unless someone created it in advance. He enlarged the signature at the bottom. Dr. Arthur Bell. Elena felt something shift. Your father may have planned the substitution. Our father, Luca said bitterly. No. Look at the timing. Why would Raphael sign a false certificate before the birth? Luca studied the document. The SUV slowed beside a construction barrier near the old courthouse district. Outside, Luca's men were already clearing a path into a condemned subway access tunnel. Elena looked again at the certificate. The second name was not aligned with the form. It had been inserted later. This is another layer, she said. Someone wanted us to find it. And believe it. Matteo leaned over the screen. So you might not be related? Neither answered him. Hope entered too quickly. Elena distrusted it immediately. Luca exited the vehicle. The tunnel smelled of rust, wet stone, and old electricity. Emergency lights cast red pools across the walls. 2 armed men walked ahead. 2 remained behind. Luca gave Elena a flashlight. You stay beside me. Not behind you. Beside me. The passage narrowed before opening into a buried corridor, lined with courthouse records rooms. Most doors had collapsed. One remained sealed behind a wall of newer concrete. Carved into it was a crowned wolf. Luca touched the emblem. My father's private mark. Vittorio's? He looked at her. He looked at her. We should stop assigning fathers until we know which dead man lied less. Matteo found a small keyhole beneath the wolf. The brass key from the video. Elena reached beneath her collar. For years, she had worn a small brass key on a chain. Sophia had told her it opened a jewelry box, lost during their last move. Elena had never been able to throw it away. She removed the necklace. Luca looked at the key, then at her. The teacher had it all along. She inserted it. The lock turned. Inside the chamber, shelves stretched from floor to ceiling. Boxes, tapes, photographs and ledgers had been preserved behind climate-controlled glass. At the center stood Daniel Reyes. Alive. Matteo ran to him. Daniel caught his brother and held him so tightly the boy's feet left the ground. I'm sorry, Daniel said into his hair. I'm sorry. Elena took 1 step forward, then stopped. A gun was pressed against Daniel's side. A woman stood behind him. Silver hair, black coat, calm eyes. Isabella Valenti. You took longer than Sophia expected, she said. Luca raised his weapon. Every man in the chamber did the same. Isabella smiled. You still think they belong to you? One by one, 3 of Luca's men turned their guns toward him. The 4th hesitated. Isabella shot him through the chest. Matteo screamed. Daniel pulled him down. Elena froze as blood spread across the stone floor. Isabella looked at her. You have Sophia's posture. Where is she? Nearer than you think. Luca kept his gun trained on Isabella. Let them go. You always did mistake protection for power. You wanted the ledger. You have it. I wanted you to open the room. Isabella nodded toward the shelves. The archive responds to Marquez blood. Elena glanced at Luca. Isabella noticed. A slow smile touched her face. You watched the birth recording. Was it real? Elena asked. Parts of it. Is Luca Raphael's son? Isabella tilted her head. Does the answer matter now? Yes. To your conscience or your heart. Luca's expression became lethal. Answer her. Isabella walked around Daniel. Raphael saved a child that night. Sophia recorded a story around it. Vittorio altered the story. Bell altered it again. Every person who touched that boy needed him to belong to someone different. She looked directly at Luca. You were never a son, you were leverage. A mechanical sound echoed through the chamber. Steel shutters descended over the exits. Luca fired. One of the traitors stepped into the path and fell. Chaos broke across the room. Elena dragged Matteo behind a stone pillar. Daniel tackled the man holding him. Gunfire struck glass, showering the floor with fragments. Luca moved toward Isabella. She did not retreat. Instead, she pressed a switch hidden beneath the central table. A monitor illuminated on the far wall. Sophia appeared live on the screen. Older, thinner, alive. Elena rose before she realized she was moving. Mom. Sophia looked straight into the camera. Her eyes filled. Elena, do not trust the recording. The chamber lights went out. A shot cracked through the darkness. Someone fell beside Elena. She reached out and found Luca on his knees. Blood covered her hand. On the screen, Sophia began screaming his name. Not Luca. Gabriel! Luca looked up at Elena, shock breaking through his pain. Isabella's voice came from somewhere in the dark. There is your answer. Elena pressed both hands against Luca's side. Blood seeped between her fingers, warm and fast. Stay with me. His face had gone pale beneath the red emergency light pulsing from the monitor. Across the chamber, Sophia's image shook as she fought against someone beyond the camera. Elena, Sophia cried. The bullet missed the artery. Keep pressure below the ribs. Luca's eyes opened. Your mother gives orders like you. Save your strength. A gun clicked in the darkness. Elena turned. Isabella stepped from behind the central shelves, her weapon aimed at Luca's chest. Move away from him. Elena did not. Isabella sighed. Sophia raised you to be intelligent. She raised me not to kneel. The older woman's gaze hardened. Behind the pillar, Daniel held Matteo against the floor. One of Luca's traitors guarded the sealed exit. Another limped through the broken glass, searching for the pistol Luca had dropped. Sophia struck the camera from the other side of the transmission. The image tilted, revealing part of the room around her. White walls. A brass elevator. A stained glass window shaped like a crescent moon. Elena recognized it. The old St. Catherine Hospital, abandoned after a fire 8 years earlier. The place where Sophia had supposedly died. She's still in the hospital, Elena said. Isabella smiled. Your mother always did leave clues when she was frightened. She isn't frightened. No? No. She wanted me to see the window. Isabella's smile vanished. Luca moved beneath Elena's hands. His fingers closed around a shard of glass. She felt it, but did not look down. He whispered, when the lights return, get Matteo to the left wall. How? Trust me. The word settled between them. Not command, not protection offered from above. Trust. Elena gave the smallest nod. Isabella raised the gun. I asked you to move. You also asked Daniel to build false evidence against Luca, Elena said, but he changed sides. Daniel looked up. Isabella's eyes shifted toward him. That was all Luca needed. He threw the glass. It struck the control panel beside the central table. Sparks burst across the chamber. The steel shutters stopped halfway through an emergency reset, and the overhead lights flashed on. Elena seized Matteo's arm. Left wall! Daniel ran with them. Luca rolled behind the table as Isabella fired. The bullet shattered the monitor. Sophia's image disappeared in a storm of white light. One of the traitors rushed toward Elena. Matteo pulled the silver watch from his pocket and hurled it across the floor. The man glanced down. Daniel struck him with a metal archive box. He collapsed. You kept the watch, Elena shouted. Matteo stared at the fallen man. You said, evidence protects people. A second gunshot cut through the chamber. Isabella staggered. Luca stood behind the table, one hand braced against his wound, the other holding the pistol Daniel had kicked toward him. The bullet had struck Isabella's shoulder. She looked at the blood spreading across her coat. You could have killed me. Yes. Why didn't you? Because Elena was right. His breathing was strained, but the weapon remained steady. You know where Sofia is. Isabella laughed. You think this ends with a rescue? No, Elena said. It ends with a confession. She lifted the memory card. During the gunfire, she had pulled it from the tablet. Isabella's face changed. The files erased themselves. Copies did, Daniel said. He stepped beside Elena and held up the external drive. The original ledger is in this room. The recordings are here. Your accounts, your officers, your judges, every person you bought. And who will publish them? Isabella asked. Valenti newspapers? Valenti police? Valenti courts? No, Elena said. The chamber speakers crackled. A man's voice filled the room. This is Special Agent Marcus Hale. We have the transmission. Isabella turned toward the ceiling. Daniel smiled without warmth. The memory card wasn't only storing evidence. It was broadcasting the moment the archive opened. Sirens rose above them. Not one vehicle. Dozens. Isabella's remaining men looked toward the half-open shutters. Luca lowered his weapon slightly. Choose carefully, he told them. The crown is finished. The limping traitor dropped his gun first. The others followed. Isabella stood alone. For years, she had moved judges, criminals, and politicians like pieces across a board. Now she looked smaller than Elena expected. Not harmless. Never that. Only exposed. You believe justice will keep you safe? Isabella asked. No, Elena said, but it will make you visible. Federal agents entered through the raised shutters. Isabella did not resist when they handcuffed her. As she passed Luca, she leaned close. Ask Sofia why she called you Gabriel. Luca's face tightened. Elena heard the question he did not ask. Who am I? The answer waited at St. Catherine Hospital. They found Sofia in a sealed treatment room beneath the abandoned East Wing. She sat in a wheelchair beside the stained glass window, guarded by two men who surrendered when agents flooded the corridor. Elena stopped in the doorway. 12 years of grief stood between them. Sofia's hair was white at the temples. A scar crossed one side of her neck. Time had thinned her face, but not changed her eyes. Elena. Her daughter did not run to her. Not yet. You let me bury you. Sofia lowered her head. Yes. You watched me mourn you. Yes. You knew where I lived. Every day. The honesty hurt more than an excuse would have. Elena stepped closer. Why? Because Isabella had already killed your father. She promised you would be next if I stopped updating the ledger. My death gave you distance from me. It gave me loneliness. Sofia's mouth trembled. I know. No. You know what you chose. I know what it cost. Sofia accepted the words without looking away. Behind Elena, Luca entered, with one hand pressed to a fresh bandage around his ribs. Two agents tried to stop him. He ignored them. Sofia looked at him. Gabriel. My name is Luca. Yes. Then why did you call me that? Sofia glanced toward Elena. Because Gabriel was the child I carried. Silence filled the room. Luca did not move. Sofia folded her hands. Vittorio's infant son died during birth. Cecilia feared what he would do when he learned he had no heir. Raphael and I had lost our newborn daughter the same night. Elena's breath caught. Sofia continued. A nurse brought us an abandoned child. His mother had died under a false name. No family came for him. Luca stared at her. So Raphael was not my father. No. And Vittorio was not my father. No. Who was? We never learned. The answer landed without ceremony. No hidden dynasty. No secret inheritance. No grand name waiting to restore him. Only a child whom several desperate people had tried to save, use, hide, or claim. Why Gabriel? He asked. That was the name on the hospital bracelet. Cecilia changed it to Luca before Vittorio arrived. Elena exhaled. The false birth certificate, the altered recording, the photograph planted in her apartment. Isabella had used the possibility of shared blood to separate them. One final cruelty. Luca looked at Elena. The distance between them changed, not disappearing, becoming possible to cross. Sophia saw it and closed her eyes briefly. I am sorry, she said. Elena turned toward her mother. For which lie? All of them. You don't get forgiveness because the danger is over. I know. You don't get to return and become my mother again. I know. Elena's anger shook through her hands. Then she noticed Sophia's wrists. Old scars circled them, like Matteo's. Captivity left its own language. Elena knelt in front of the wheelchair. I'm not ready to forgive you. Sophia nodded. But you're alive, Elena said, so we have time to decide what comes next. A tear moved down Sophia's cheek. Elena did not wipe it away. She took her hand instead. 3 months later, the Crown trials began. Judges resigned. Officers were arrested. Bank accounts were frozen across 4 countries. Isabella Valenti faced charges for murder, kidnapping, racketeering, conspiracy, and political corruption. Daniel testified under federal protection. Matteo returned to school and submitted every missing assignment in 1 week, though Elena suspected Daniel had helped with the history essay. Sophia entered a protected rehabilitation program. Elena visited every Sunday. Some meetings ended in silence, some in anger. One ended in laughter, so unexpected that both women cried afterward. Luca dismantled the remaining criminal branches of the Valenti organization. The legal companies passed into an independent trust that funded schools, witness protection services, and families harmed by Crown operations. He kept no throne, only the name. On the first day of spring, Elena stayed late to arrange books in her classroom. At 5 o'clock, Luca appeared in the doorway. No guards, no charcoal suit, just a dark sweater, a healing scar, and 2 cups of coffee. You're late, she said. You never invited me. You came anyway. I'm working on boundaries. Poorly. He placed 1 cup on her desk. She tasted it. Exactly the way she liked it. You remembered. I remember everything you say. The hallway outside was empty. Sunlight rested across the desks where fear had first entered her life in blue crayon. Luca looked at the repaired window. Do you regret asking about Daniel? No. Even after everything it cost. Elena considered him. My father gave his life trying to protect the truth. My mother lost 12 years to it. Daniel nearly died carrying it. Regret would make their choices smaller. Luca nodded. And us? There was no us. His eyes held hers. No? She let the silence answer first. Then she walked around the desk. Respect, she said. And he waited. Trust. He set down his coffee. Protection, she continued, though you still confuse that with control. I'm improving. Slowly. Painfully. She almost smiled. Understanding, sacrifice, admiration. His voice softened, and after that, Elena stood close enough to hear his breathing change. After that, she said, we stopped pretending. She kissed him. Not because he was dangerous, not because he had power, because when the truth stripped everything else away, he had chosen justice over his empire, mercy over revenge, and trust over control. His hand rested lightly at her waist. He did not pull her closer until she did. Outside, the final bell rang through the empty school. Luca touched his forehead to hers. What happens now? Elena looked at the man who had entered her classroom demanding answers, and ended by surrendering every lie that had protected him. Now, she said, you take me to dinner. His mouth curved. Is that an order? Yes. He picked up her coat. For once, Luca Valenti obeyed, and Elena walked beside him, not behind, never beneath, into a life neither of them had inherited. They would build it themselves.